Okay, it says we are live.
Awesome.
Awesome. So yeah, we had to push it back just a little bit because moving is a thing.
I know it's been crazy. I just got back to Los Angeles 2 days ago. So of course, like everything is just scattered and, trying to find a place for everything. But
Yeah, I mean, it would be fine if we saw boxes too, because then we'd know that you had just moved. But
I got a clean background. I was thinking we were doing Zoom, so I was going to do one of those fake backgrounds, but luckily everything looks good back here. So
sorry about that.
no worries at all.
Okay, well, I'll just introduce myself again for people who don't know me. I'm Hilary Van Ness, and I wrote Empath Uncovered, the fictional novel. And then I just felt like I wanted to do empath interviews as well because I thought that it was important, and I'm passionate about it. And so that's what I'm doing with these. And then if you could introduce yourself, I know it's basically just your name, but and maybe say how we got connected.
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Mann, and I am into all kinds of different arts. I'm an actor. I'm a model. I write poetry. I currently do a YouTube channel that is called A Man's Journey, and I do a whole bunch of book reviews. So that's pretty much everything I'm involved in right now. And you and I met through Nathan. And Nathan Reedy, correct? That's his last name? Yeah.
Yes.
Nathan Reedy. Sorry, I knew your last name. I just want to double check. But Nathan and I were on a movie recently called Slayer Chronicles. So we are super excited for that. I think that'll be coming out, I want to say in the summer or maybe in the fall of this next upcoming year. So we can look forward to that.
Yeah. Did you film that before, after, like during COVID?
Literally like the month before COVID was a thing. We filmed through the end of January and then into February. So of last year. So yeah, it was like right before COVID. None of us even knew really what it was. So
yeah, because I think I auditioned for it too. That's why I was wondering, and I didn't remember any masks. So I was thinking you guys might have been able to film it before that happened.
We filmed it, and I don't know of anybody that got sick. So yeah, it was great.
Awesome. Okay. And then the first question I've kind of been asking everybody, which evolves a little bit with each one, is when you're having to explain what an empath is, or if somebody was to say, like, what is an empath? I don't know what that is. How would you explain that to somebody?
That's a good question. Because my cousin asked me the same thing when I was watching your live 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah.
No, actually, it was last week.
That was last week. I know my whole time frame is like out the window right now.
Yeah, I don't normally do them one right after the other, but it just kind of happened.
Yeah, hey, it works. So when I watched that, he was like, "Oh, what is an empath?" And I was like, "Oh, this is a great question for me because I'm probably going to get this one."
Yeah.
So an empath to me is somebody that is very intuitive and sensitive to everyone's energy around them. They are people that can feel the energy of a room. They are people that struggle sometimes with other people's emotions and taking on their emotions. Usually the victims of narcissists, they can get into poor narcissistic relationships where they maybe get into guilt cycles because they feel so much of what the other person's feeling. And like a lot of times, even an empath can take on the guilt that they're actually the person in the wrong. So they're easily manipulated. But I would say as an empath, a good thing to remember is empaths can take on emotion. So I do believe a lot of actors are empaths because they have to take on characters and all of their emotions in that character. And Um, Another way to describe it as well is like I might even be watching, let's say like I'm watching an interview and somebody's talking about somebody that lost, maybe like the person on TV lost a family member or something. And like I will feel it so deeply. Like I will tune into their energy and I might even start crying because it's hard for me to put a wall between somebody's raw emotions. I start to reflect it, even though it's not my own life. I have to be sensitive about what movies I watch. I take on that energy with me. So yeah, it's a bit of a broad definition, but I think empath is a very wide array and looks very different for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I had mentioned before we went live that I actually had a realization about empaths today.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Yeah, so well, it's kind of started a couple weeks ago or whatever, but then actual realization happened today.
Yeah.
I was out and about with like my mask, and I made eye contact with somebody that I didn't know and still don't know, never met before. And it's interesting because I always identified and thought that being an empath was very much emotionally. Everything was just, I feel really deep. Everything I feel is it's just feelings. But I never necessarily felt it physically, like picking up on somebody else's energy and then getting a physical reaction from it. And so I made eye contact with this stranger, and then it was a little delayed, but I had like this stabbing pain in for a second in my ribs. And so I just like adjusted a little, looked down, looked away, and then I was fine and haven't had any problems since. And it just made me rethink this whole thing about being an empath, because it's not just, I know there are different layers and it depends on how in tune you are and what you're paying attention to and things like that. And I've developed, I'm always growing and evolving and developing in that way. But it was really interesting because I didn't think about it until I got home later at night, like before bed. And I was like, that was the only connection because I was like, I was fine. There was nothing wrong with me. There was no reason I should have felt that way. But it was after I had made eye contact with this random person. And so they must have had some sort of negative energy or something that did not work with me. And my body was like, get away. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, there's such a, like, so some people might take on being an empath as having a lot of physical ailments and problems because they're taking on other people's shit and they don't necessarily know how to release it or don't even know what's happening, because it might have happened to me multiple times and I just never had made a connection of it being with another person before. And
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's interesting you say that, because I do believe it can show up in physical manifestations. And that is something I can connect to as an actor as well, you know, whether it's a physical impediment or something I'm taking on, you know, it's like I can feel those pains, you know, like let's say in my scene, I'm supposed to have a limp leg, you know. What if I play the scene enough and I really get into those characters, I can start to like take on leg pain, you know, and like really channel a physical manifestation of it. So I think that's totally something you experience, you know, that's very profound.
yeah, and I think it's definitely going to change how I look at other people, because sometimes I might think that this specific person might not be an empath because they wouldn't, like, I don't know. It's a little bit like they wouldn't react this specific way to this specific situation if they were in it. Like they would be more positive or more loving or so, you know, something. But that's a little bit of a judgment that I probably shouldn't put on anybody else. But yeah, it's just, I feel like it's going to change. It's going to change everything. It's just like, oh, wow, you could, I mean, like, yeah, I was like, was talking with
No,
my friend, and we were like, oh, realization.
no, that's
So,
great. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, another thing I experienced as an empath that I struggled with when I was younger was walking into rooms, like crowded rooms, and not realizing where that source of anxiety was coming from. And growing up, I think you don't know how to, you don't have a word for it. I remember last week you were saying, I didn't have a word for empath, and now I do. So it like changed everything. But when you're young, when I was 17, 18, 19, I didn't have a word for what was happening, but I would walk into crowded rooms like a movie theater or literally any restaurant. And I'm picking up on the anxiety of the chefs and the servers and the people that are impatient about their food and any negative emotions. I really didn't have a block. And it would manifest physically for me in nausea, like severe discomfort, sweaty palms, and all this like anxiety. We all know how to label anxiety, but I think there are a lot of people out there that don't know they're an empath, and really the source of anxiety is linked to empath like qualities that they haven't discovered in themselves. So
Yeah, I don't know if I've told this specific story. I tell lots of stories on on here,
yeah.
but it's yeah, especially with large groups of people. Because I mean, I go to conventions for supernatural, which I love, but I still need like a week of like recovery time, even if when it's really good energy.
Mhm.
So, and that's a little bit of an introvert thing too. Like I'm extroverted when I'm around the right people, but I still need recovery time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I would go to these conferences, for lack of a better word, with
Uh,
with, with my mom growing up, and or when I was in high school. And I still remember, before I had the terminology or really knew that I was an empath, but had an idea that I, still was very connected to being emotional. I was in a room full of women who were confronting very deep things, deep-seated things that they were trying to grow and um, evolve and make better in their lives. And um, my mom's claustrophobic, so I have to sit on the inside of the aisle and she has to sit on the outside. And I just remember, I don't think I'd had many panic attacks, but I was feeling like really panicky and I was having trouble breathing and I was trying to get out and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I couldn't even voice it. And I remember turning to my mom, opening my mouth and not having any idea what was going to come out. And it ended up, I opened my mouth and I said, I think I'm having a panic attack and I don't know why. And then I was immediately fine,
mhm.
because whatever I was feeling was not mine. It was everybody else's. And it was a large group of women. And so then my mom's like, fix it mode, like, what's going on? Do you need to get out? And I'm like, okay, no, now I'm fine. I just couldn't figure out what's going on. So that's always been my go-to catchphrase, is if I don't know comes out of my mouth, if I say, hey, I'm feeling this way, but I don't know why, that means
Mhm.
it's not mine. And then it helps me be like, oh, okay, I can identify that's not mine and I can breathe and
Yeah.
relax.
No, that's a great tip for people that deal with anxiety, is to externalize those feelings and to focus on other things, to be like, okay, maybe this isn't of mine, and I think I find power in speaking these things out loud as well. A lot of times when you are going through something, you're going through it and nobody knows you're going through it, and you're like, I don't want anybody to know, and it makes it worse. It like winds it, more and more and more. And I think like just speaking it out to somebody that you feel comfortable with can really ease that stress and be like, okay, feeling a little anxiety right now, but okay, wow, I already feel better just saying that. Okay, it's like breathing through it. That's great. I find if people struggle with anxiety, a great thing to do is to physically tactile yourself, like to do physical things that will bring you to the present moment, because anxiety a lot of times can come from the fear of what is to come, or the fear that's building, or past situations affecting your present. So like, I get anxiety when I go into a movie theater. So now every time I sit in the seat, here it comes. Now it's like I'm worried about the past. Like, oh boy, do I need to leave the theater? You can do things like maybe pinch your arm, maybe like rub your hands. It's like to remind yourself like, oh, no, like I'm here and everything's okay. I can feel this. Like I can feel my arms, like everything is in the present. That can help release a lot of that stress. But I think the great thing with what you said too is like realizing that everyone has energy and everyone is going through different things in their lives. You don't know who you're sitting next to. You don't know where they just walked in from. I mean, subways give me the same vibe. It's like when I get in a subway, it's like, oh my goodness, like I almost need to meditate and like really breathe through that experience, because there's a lot of pain on those systems. So yeah,
it's very interesting, because I don't know that I ever attributed this to being an empath, but it makes complete sense now. It's just I've never been a partier. I've never gone out and done crazy things, or if I do hang out with a bunch of people or go to a place that has a bunch of people, I like it when it's still people, but when it gets to be too many people, I get really overwhelmed and I have a lot of anxiety, and I'm like, I can't be here because it's just too much. Before COVID, when I was going to line dancing once a week, it would be, or maybe I would go like, it depends. Sometimes I go twice a week. And I think I could tell the difference between if I went in earlier in the week and then if I went like Wednesday when a lot of people went. So I'd go for the lesson and there'd be just a few people and it'd be great. And, it'd be enough people. And then when it gets to like 9 or 10 at night and like the masses come in, it was just like, and you could hardly fit on the dance floor, even if it's good energy and good people. I'm just like, I can't breathe.
Just too many people.
Yeah, it's just too overwhelming.
No, for me, it's also like, I've never been like, it's like, I have friends that are like, hey, let's go out to the bars or let's go to clubs. My worst nightmare. Like, you can't talk to anybody. The energy is extremely intense. People are drunk. I'm a very firm believer that the reason alcohol is called spirits is because when you drink spirits, you're allowing, like, your inhibitions come down and you're allowing for spirits to attach onto you. So when I'm in that setting, it is like empath haywire, like everything, all my bells are going off, and it's just like, I don't feel comfortable here. Like it's like, and I don't even particularly like to drink. So those big crowds, concerts can be a real big one too. I love music, but if I'm in the middle of all this, and I mean, it depends. Like if it's John Mayer, it's totally different. A lot of people are in a loving vibe, but if we're in a rock concert, it's like, why do I feel so endangered right now? Why do I feel so unsafe?
Yeah, you get to pick and choose. So like, I like going to conventions because it's one specific TV show. It's not like a whole bunch of, it's not like Comic-Con. I don't think I've ever been to Comic-Con. They're also really hard tickets to get, but
expensive too, right? It's like
I think so. Yeah. They get sold out in like 2 seconds. I don't think I'll ever be able to go to one, but that's okay. But yeah, I mean, I go to convention and I like it because it's like a small community, but there's still a lot of people and it's still overwhelming in some ways because you're meeting some of your favorite people. But
well, it's externalized too. It's like that thing where you, like, when you focus on other people, it allows you to not be in your own head. It's like when you're around a bunch of your best friends, everything's fine. It's, you're in your community. It's when you're kind of removed from it or you're overthinking, it's that not being in the present,
Yeah, like I might have told this at some point, but I don't know. I was working at the candy store and I had to do some deliveries and try to find the locations. And one of them was connected with a casino.
Hmm.
And don't drink, I don't gamble, I don't smoke, I don't do anything that
Hmm.
are the value systems of casinos. And so I opened the door, I walked in and immediately was like, nope, and turned and walked right back out and called my boss. And I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And then that also happened. There was a convention that I had chosen to go to in Vegas that I had to travel to get to. So I couldn't like leave. And I walked in and it's in a casino. So it's like a hotel casino. And so you have to walk through the casino to get anywhere. And I just gotten off the flight and I just arrived and I walked in and I was so overwhelmed. I wanted to turn and walk right back out, but I
Yeah.
couldn't because I had committed to being there. And the convention was great. It wasn't in the casino, but it was just like you had to walk through there and you can smoke inside. And it's just like everything that I don't do. And it's just like, oh, get me out of here. It's not safe. It's not a safe environment.
It's uncomfortable. And I think, anybody that's resonating with this that doesn't claim themselves as an empath, I think it's important to move the conversation into, sorry, got my dogs running around. They hit the wires. It's important to move the conversation into, you may be an empath and you didn't know it. And maybe now you're discovering you're an empath. Now the next level to it is learning to build walls around that emotional sensory, because I went from not being able to eat in restaurants and sit in movie theaters and like have really any large group setting to walking on stage for a modeling runway show in front of thousands of people. And it was like, I mean, not a lot of people know that story about me, but it's like, how did I go from like not being able to be in a restaurant of like 50 people to like being on a stage where like literally thousands of people are looking at you and you have this one moment, you don't get to say, wait, I'm not ready. Like you're pushed out there and all of a sudden, hey, everyone's energy is on me. And like, how do I deal with that and not crumple, under that pressure? And this is what I learned to do through my life and through my young 20s was, oh, I can use their energy in my own power. Actually, I can be on stage and say, wow, okay, everybody's looking at me, but I can empower that energy and keep it very centered. And it's like a focused energy, you're channeling it through to your task. And it's very interesting because now I can do that in all kinds of settings. I can go, on a bus or something and be like, okay, I'm feeling a lot right now, but here are my energetic walls, my emotional walls. I can place those. I have things, like I said, the touching, like those kind of things can help bring me back into my body and give myself the power again and really turn off the emotional receptors from everybody else that's going on. And people that are unaware also are, I try to be careful about my energy and what I give to people. I don't want to, it's like the thing where like a husband and wife, right? The husband, or let's say the wife comes home from work, right? And the husband's cooking dinner and the wife comes in and she's just like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe this woman at work. And she was so rude and blah, blah. And she basically takes all her emotional poison of the whole day and dumps it on her husband as he's like in a good mood and cooking work. And it's like, it's just so intense. So I try to take that and be like, okay, how can I positively carry my energy? Because, even if I'm having a bad day, there are people that can help me vent that. But a lot of people, I don't need to just dump just random toxins onto people.
Yeah, this might be a bad visual way of saying it, but this is how I've always said it, is people are verbally throwing up on me.
Yeah.
And then how you deal with that, or do you have the space to hold the basket for them to do that? Or are you like, not right now, please don't do that. Give me a heads up. or if you're the only person that they can go to, that makes it very difficult as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe you guys need to talk about, like, if you're feeling overwhelmed by this particular person that tends to come home and just unload those things, maybe it's like, hey, how about this? When you come home, I want you to take some time to yourself. Like, I know you probably had a hard day and I want to hear it and I want to be there for you, but maybe just take 20 minutes. Maybe the best thing for you is to jump in the shower, rinse off, like kind of reset yourself, wash off the day, and then let's sit down, and like talk about it. I find that would be much more productive than that kind of like unsolicited, like, here's my day, here is everything. And I'm like I said, I'm very, very careful with the people around me, because we all go through things. It's just you have a choice of how and when you emote those situations to just anybody, and also to like know, have you taken the time to yourself? Because a lot of times taking that shower, taking a few breaths in the shower and being like, okay, man, that kind of sucked, but I don't even really need to talk about it because it was just a shitty person, and like, they're gone. I'm never going to see them again,
Yeah, for me, the only thing that I would probably have difficulty with that is how I process is through
Mhm.
talking it out.
Yeah.
So I would need somebody to be able to bounce it off of. However, I have been learning more to come to myself and to try to see how much I can work on and figure out on my own before trying to come to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also realized, especially recently, I've been trying to more consistently meditate when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night. And I notice when I stop doing it for a couple of days, or if I only do it like once every day, it makes a huge difference. Like, I go from being okay and managing and happy in my life to being like, oh my God, I'm so like drained and exhausted, and I just want to sleep all day and I can't do anything, so it's just like, and especially if and I'm still working on it, because it's like, I don't want to meditate. And so it's like really hard for me to get into the space. But once I get into the space, it always makes me feel better, especially
Absolutely.
when I'm not feeling good. So I don't know why it's so hard.
No, yeah, I think we all struggle with it. It's like, it is difficult to sit down and make that space and like say, okay, in the morning after I get my cup of coffee, like, let's just sit with ourselves, because what you'll find is all those things running in your head a million miles an hour that are overwhelming you in the day. It's like your chance to kind of flush that out of your system. And I think some people are also afraid to meditate, because I've had this discussion with people as well. Like, well, I sit to meditate and then all these like dark thoughts come in, and like, it's just, I go into a bad space. It's like I'm now thinking about all these negative things, and then it's like, well, I don't want to manifest bad things. And I'm like, okay, well, the solution to this is when those things come up in meditating, you need to breathe through it. Take those things in and breathe them out, deep breaths, letting go, releasing those thoughts. The best metaphor I've heard is because I get it too, I get clogged with a bad thought, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to breathe through it. And on my breath out, I'm going to imagine that thought drifting away like a cloud, and then, new thoughts come in. And you can use positive affirmations to kind of reroute your train of thought. So something comes in, let's say, Aaron, like, yeah, how are you going to make that $500 this month? Like, you got to make that $500. And it's like, release that thought, let it float away in the cloud. And I say, I am abundant. I am powerful. I am successful. I'll feed myself positive affirmations, and pretty soon my train of thought is in a completely different place. But you got to allow yourself to kind of sit through that uncomfortable negative moment to even release it. Because if you're just hiding from it, that's kind of what you're saying. Like, I didn't meditate today, so now it's like, I just need to talk to somebody. I just need to like kind of spill and vent this because I haven't had time to work through it through myself, my own emotional being.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because while you were talking, I was thinking of something I did once that I was just like, it can't be that easy. Like, I was in my depression and I had hired Rachel Ferreira, who's I attribute to being the reason I got out of my depression. She basically gave me her hand and directed me out back into the light. And I just love her
That's
forever
awesome.
for that. She's amazing. Wow. Everybody should use her services, but she, it's like with grace and ease, everything doesn't have to be hard. And so I had forgotten how to be happy when I was in my 3-year depression. And I do remember when I would go to bed, I'd have a lot of negative thoughts, and I would like focus on it and then spiral, and then it would be really difficult to come out of it. And so I had this moment when I was working with her and I was going to go to bed. And I said, okay, I'm going to put a gross tarp. It's like a dirty tarp. I'm going to put it over this thought because I don't want to look at it right now. I'll think about it tomorrow. You know, like when I wake up, I'll deal with it or whatever. I want to go to bed and I want to be able to sleep. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, oh, but I'm curious about what it is. And I do want to actually look at it. And I couldn't. It was gone because I had covered it up and I couldn't access it again. I couldn't remember what it was. And I was like, that was really easy. Like, how is that even that easy? And I haven't really had to do it since then, but that could be something for people to look at as well. And also, I've noticed recently that I used to be one of those people that was scared of quiet. I didn't want to think that I was scared of quiet, but I didn't really like to have any quiet time. So like no TV, no phone, nothing, just kind of being in the space, existing, living, all of that. And through meditating and trying to be more my own best friend and take care of myself in that way, go within for the answers, I've found that like when I get ready for bed at night, I don't have to have music on, even if it's like meditation music that's bringing me and rising me up or whatever, you know, I don't even need that. I can just get ready for bed in quiet. And I think that's a big step.
Absolutely. You know, it's it's learning to love yourself and learning to not use all these things, all these incredible things that we have as tools to distract us and keep us completely kind of hijacked. I mean, your brain is hijacked when you're watching movies and Netflix and listening to music and all these things. Like, you're hooked into a system that is helping you think things. So like, you know, I think that's where a lot of alcoholics come into this, where it's like, well, you know, I drink to turn off those thoughts. I drink so I can like finally get some peace to just go to sleep, you know, just to check out. And, you know, the difficulty is saying, okay, wait a minute. We are natural beings, you know. I mean, we spent thousands of years in nature with none of these distractions. Like, we had to get to know ourselves. And I would say, I mean, I wasn't around thousands of years ago, but I think depression looked very different, you know, and it looks different for us because we have all these things that are just so accessible, and you can go for days and months and years completely unaware, completely autopiloted into different habits and different ways of thinking to avoid these thoughts, you know, and to work through the emotional pain and the traumas that are going on from your past experiences. And I mean, we all have them, but the thing that you're talking about, which is where you made that shift, is saying, okay, I can be with myself. I can love myself. I need to learn to sit through what those thoughts are and see like what is going on and how can I heal from that. So that's super powerful. I'm glad that you've gotten to that space, because I tell everybody, like, you know, meditate, you know, and even if you can't meditate, if you're not there yet, get your book 20-30 minutes before bed and just read your book, because that is a different it is helping you critically think through this story, the novel or the self-help or whatever. It's helping you internalize your emotions. So reading before bed, reading when you wake up, it really changes the way your day and your outcome happens, you know?
And meditating doesn't have to be sitting in silence, listening to your own breath. It can be reading, it can be dancing, it can, I feel like, especially even for me, meditation has gotten a bad rap because it's like you have to sit quiet, you have to do it for 20 minutes. You can't have your distracting thoughts come in when you're always thinking they're going to be there. Like part of the process of meditating is every time a thought comes in to distract you, you try to go back to your breath and try to focus again, but not judge yourself or beat yourself up for the fact that you had thoughts come in. It's like even meditating, I'm not completely clear-headed the whole time. Like I still have thoughts coming in. I still get distracted and then have to focus again.
I do too.
Yeah, it's not super easy, and it could even be like a 2-minute thing. Focus on your breath five times or whatever. Take a couple deep breaths, and it's really hard to do in the moment when you don't want to, but it really does help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people that are resisting those changes or saying, meditation is not for me, I can't do it. Start simple, like you said. Well, could you meditate for 2 minutes? Like, what about 3 minutes? Like how about we do a challenge? For the next 10 days, you're going to add 1 minute of meditation per day, see what happens. It's like you can do 1 minute. Well, I guess you could do 2 minutes. Oh, you could do 3. Well, 10 feels long, but it's like easing. Like I had this conversation with one of my best friends, and I won't mention names, but like he is not a meditator. Like he literally flat out told me, he's like, dude, I don't meditate. That stuff's not for me. Like I was like, well, maybe you could read. No, dude, I don't read books. Like I'm just not that guy. Like you're barking up the wrong tree. And I'm just like, well, could you read for a minute? Well, yeah, I could read for a minute, but I just don't want to. I'm like, well, maybe you just need to pick up and read 1 page, and he's very resistant. But I'm saying, like, you can slowly ease your way into new habits. You don't have to like say, okay, everyone says I need to meditate for 20 minutes. Like, let me set my timer for 20 minutes. Please don't do that. You're going to drive yourself nuts.
I meditate for 20 minutes. If anything, it's maybe 10 or 15. Like I don't, it doesn't.
No, yeah. You just start off very small, like if you're not a reader, find something you would love to read. Maybe you're into comedians. I had this friend that he's like on a total new life journey, changed his diet. I have, brought up reading for years now. And he's like, dude, you'd be proud of me. I found a book I'm actually reading now. It's about a comedian. And I was like, awesome. Like, yes, like, what are you doing for it? He's like, oh, I wake up in the morning. I read a chapter every morning. And, it's been really helping me. Like my mind, I don't feel as groggy. I'm like, yes, thank goodness. Like I'm not saying like everybody needs to pick up a Bible or pick up the latest, greatest spiritual read. I'm just saying the act of reading helps you process things in your mind. Like you said, it's a meditation. You're using your brain in a very different way than Netflix, where Netflix hijacks you, video games. I'm a past video, or what do I say? I'm an ex video game addict. Like I know about mind hacking, I know what it's like to get lost in video games for 16 hours a day. It takes over and it makes you feel nothing, you get to numb out. So reading really helps you start this process. If you need to do healing, I really recommend starting there.
Yeah, and everybody has their own process. It's taken me years. It was not necessarily an easy process because I fought it.
Yeah.
But it works. I finally have like a somewhat of a process isn't the right word, but process that I do.
A routine?
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. A routine that I do every morning, and I've I finally keep my phone in the other room when I sleep, so that when I wake up, I do a couple of things before I even go and turn it on. Although I have been allowing myself on weekends to have it in my room when I wake up in the morning, but that's just like a treat I give myself twice a week.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think everybody should start their morning away from social media, away from emails, away from any contact. I think, I don't know where I heard this, but the best thing I've ever heard about that is, how are you going to check in with the whole world before you check in with yourself? Like, that's huge. Like, you're grabbing this thing that puts you into contact with hundreds, thousands, millions of different bits of information, and you haven't checked in with yourself. Like you said, have I meditated? Have I seen who is Aaron Mann today? Because also, we're all changing every single day, and the people around you like to put you in a box and say, well, you're the same person as yesterday. Well, sorry, I'm not actually. Like, so, it's important to see, okay, who is Aaron Mann today? How are we feeling? Did I have nightmares? Am I in a good place? And a lot of times I find that's where my inspiration comes from, because I mentioned I do poetry and I write. When I'm meditating and I'm checking in with myself, it is effortless. Like, I just start receiving all these like texts, like, I'm not texting, but like, I start receiving words on the page. It's almost like I'm clearing blockages in my morning to allow me to be in that authentic, inspirational place,
Yeah, I
So,
definitely feel sometimes when I'm writing that I'm channeling, for lack of a better word, because I don't channel in that way. But
no,
sometimes
yeah, it can be a positive channeling.
so I'll write something and think it's and feel really good about it while I'm writing it, or like not even be paying attention while I'm writing it, and then I'll come back and read it later and be like, whoa, I wrote that. I know I wrote it. I remember writing that, but that's better than I thought it was. So it's like,
I have that too. I literally, like, I'll write something, I'll look back and I'd be like, what the heck? Like, I didn't even have this thought while writing it, and like, it, like you said, it's channeled through you. And I'll like be like, babe, I'll go to my girlfriend, I'm like, I gotta read this to you. Like, oh my God, look what came out of me, or read it to my mom, or send my poetry. I've been like putting my poetry on Twitter, because it's just like, why not? Like, let me just release this stuff, because it's like, I held on to all these things for years and years and years, and was like, I'm going to make something so specific, or I'm going to make music or lyrics, or what if I just give all this away? And I started just like, why not? I'm just going to release these thoughts. Like, they're inspired to me, and I feel like they're inspired to me, so I can share them immediately,
yeah,
so
I'm of the philosophy that it's never going to be perfect, so you might as well just share it, because
yeah,
you never know, it could help somebody else.
absolutely. And yeah, release blocks, like your hurt, your pain, your traumas, although they may feel very personal to you, and very embarrassing, or very like, you want to hold it like this. Believe it or not, when you do this, there are people out there that connect to that, and they have been through the same thing. And when you go like this with all your pain and all your hurt, people say, oh my God, I feel that. Like, thank you for telling me that. Oh my, I didn't know how to say that, but like, that's been on my mind. Or I didn't know I was feeling that, and I read that, and like, I'm in tears, because that was so what I'm going through, like, we need to share, and don't worry about the haters, like that, all that negativity, or like people coming at you, like, none of that matters. Imagine if you affected one person that was going to take their life next week, and they decided to change their mindset because you shared something very personal to you,
And it might not even be something you think, or the thing you think it would be, that would help somebody. It could be something so small that you just said. And you see it with celebrities and fans who are telling them, like, you saved my life, or like, you said this thing that just made me like stronger and made me want to fight for my life, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It doesn't always have to be like you saved my life kind of thing,
Yeah,
but
like life or death. I know it doesn't have to be that intense.
yeah, it's just that's typically the stories that you hear when people, but it's definitely like celebrities and fans are able to like for me especially the celebrities who are the most authentic and genuine are the ones that I want to be following and emulating. And I do love when they're like, well, I want you to be better than me. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take you as a starting point and
Yeah.
I'll move forward from there.
No, I love it. You know, I'm really into different artists all over the place. Everything from opera to rap. There's this rapper I listen to. His name is NF, and he just, I mean, if you just like pulled up, if we had like a lyric pulled up on our page right now, I mean, we are listening to his journal. You know, he is writing about growing up with nothing. Parents didn't do this, you know, like, or some people, a lot of people connect to early Eminem, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, a lot
I
of it's
like them.
vulgar, but it's real. It is. I mean, that is a man talking from the heart, and look at how that expanded, you know, people just drew to it because it's like, wow, look at how courageous you are. And I relate to this so deeply. I need this. It's cathartic to my journey. So, you know, as artists, that's really our duty. And if you feel you're in a place right now where you don't want to be judged and you're afraid to release, I would say do everything you can to release and fight that. Like whatever that means to you. For me, it meant I'm going to write something down on my paper and I'm going to release it to Twitter. I'm just going to like put a poem out there. Boom. Hey, I started doing spoken poetry. I wrote down all my poetry. I'll do like 1 minute, 1:30, just speaking at the camera. Like, here's my poem, and I'll put it on Instagram and send it. Right. And like all of a sudden I'm getting like thousands of views on my poem. And it's like people are like really connecting to it. And the intention was not for like a popularity thing. It was like out of frustration. Like I'm frustrated that I haven't been producing and putting out the real me. So like taking that as an artist and being like, okay, I'm really going to show what's going on inside and what is that authenticity look for me, you know? So I think that's very empowering. I think all artists should practice releasing.
Yeah, I'm while you were talking, I thought about a quote that I've heard. I don't know what it's from, so I can't
That's
give
okay.
credit. But it's yeah, quote. It's your life or your life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
I love that.
Everything, like when you have fear, you have to move through it. You have to, yeah, it's like you don't want to stay stagnant and not evolve or grow in any way. And the only way you're going to grow is if you're a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes a lot of it uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah. I mean, talk about like, you know, say you take 3-6 months, a year off of working out. Tell me how that first week is. That sucks, you know, like it is uncomfortable, but we grow through resistance. Flowers grow through resistance of dirt. I mean, literally, like, a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. I mean, it is done through resistance. You know, we get diamonds through pressure. I mean, it is, we are not different from this life force working around us. We are very much the same. And I think in 2021, if you can learn anything, it is that all this material, all this consumerism is distraction from who you are inside. And until you get fed up with being so comfortable and so mundane and so everything's like this, ticky tacky toe, you know, like I got everything in a row, all the safety, we got this here, that no uncomfortable, no, I want stability. It's like, yeah, but like maybe you're missing the whole point, you know, like maybe you're not taking enough risk. Maybe you're not really sitting with who you are. Like you said, it's like, can I just be with myself? I love watching these nature shows where they go naked and afraid, you know, or like these alone nature shows. Because when you get out there, you really you gotta love yourself. Like there's no one else. There's no distractions. Like it's like, oh wow, like I'm just with me. Like, do I like me? Do I like who I am? Because you better like yourself when you're in the middle of a dense forest, you know, looking for food and you've got no help out there. You know, that's where your connection with spirit and, you know, whatever your God or your religion is, it's really a connection with yourself, you know, and finding love for yourself, whatever religion or spiritual thing you subscribe to, you know.
Yeah, I've been realizing this too. You're going to spend the most time with you. Like nobody else is going to know you as well as you know you. And I spent my whole life thinking that other people had to tell me what to do so that
Mm-hmm.
then I would know what to do because I didn't know what to do.
Oh yeah.
You just
I
have to
think
tell
that's
me
the
what to do and then I'll
majority
do
of
it. Uh,
yeah.
so now I'm realizing I'm trying to figure out what I believe, what decisions I would make just with myself and be okay with it and not. I'm just still working on not caring what other people think. I don't know how much of that is me, how much of that is me being an introvert, wanting people to like me. It could be being an empath, wanting people to like me, wanting to, you know, be
Absolutely. Yeah.
enough for other people. But I'm sorry, other people don't matter. Like it's all about me and what makes me happy and what makes me feel good. And other people's opinions of me shouldn't matter because they don't live with me. And even if they did live with me, they still don't live with me because I'm with me 24/7. And so I have to like who I am in order to have that happen.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing the process, you know, you're doing the process that many don't dare trek on. You're going on the journey of self-discovery, which is so crucial. I mean, you know, it's like how many people really go on that journey, and I challenge everyone to because it's I'm not saying I'm like done on my journey. I search every day, you know, like I said, we're new people every day. But it is that self-love, like that comes down to it, you know, whatever you've gone through in your past and whatever, you know, missteps or sins or things that you've messed up on, like you can live in a new life today. And that day has to start with self-love and ultimate forgiveness for yourself and whatever you've gone through, whatever distress. Like I said, I was a video game addict. Like, you know, I had to forgive myself for all those years that I stayed trapped behind a computer screen because I was too scared to really like go out there and face like my own artist and my own, like, what do I want to create in this world? Well, it's scary. I'm going to get turned down. There's going to be people that don't like it. They don't like me. They don't want to see me do well, whatever it may be. But if I don't cut out those distractions and I don't get to know myself, then I just stay behind that computer screen. I stay lost and I stay numb to my purpose. Like everyone's like, what is my purpose? Like, why am I here? Why are we on earth? It's like, well, that process doesn't start until you check in with yourself. So before you criticize meditation and saying, oh, books aren't for me and all these things, well, I think those things are going to help you really discover who you are, you know, and that purpose. If you're feeling, I mean, so many people in 2021 are feeling lost and like everything's flipped upside down. And it's like, who am I? What is this? Like, why are we here? What is going on? So, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody has, I don't know if the people you're talking about are thinking that there's one purpose for everybody, but I think that every person has a different purpose. And I'm trying to figure out how I phrase this, but I think my soul's purpose is to act because that gives me something that I don't really know how to explain, but it fills my heart up and makes me happy in a way that I've never experienced before. It makes me feel powerful. It's really awesome. And writing is something that I'm good at. I have a skill for, and I enjoy creating. So I don't know that I necessarily enjoy writing, but I enjoy the creating process through writing. So I enjoy any sort of creating.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are two different types of purpose for me in my life.
Yeah, well, it lights you up, right? It makes you feel joy. You know, it's I think that's the happiest people on this planet is people that can find that thing or those things. Like I have many things. I mean, there's so many routes I could have been a professional pool player. Like I love playing pool, you know? It's like that lights me up, but ultimately it became more of it became more of what's that word?
Hobby?
Yeah, like it became more of a hobby to me. Like I started to play like for money, you know, make it a little more competitive. And I found out like I actually just like this for the joy of doing it once in a while. But doing something like music, I mean, till the day I die, I will be creating music, whether it's for people or whether I just need to sit down with my guitar for 30 minutes or an hour or play piano for a little bit. Like that joy is just, it takes me out of this reality, you know, it puts me in like a completely different place. And I think that's something where it's like, wow, this is something that's on a different level. Like I could really do this for the rest of my life, you know? So finding those different purposes is it's difficult to do. I know there's a lot of people at home that don't feel connected to those things. You know, they're like, I still haven't found that thing. But I think you need to lean into the things you love and experiment, you know, and see. It's like, I love video games, right? Like I used to love video games a lot, but it became an obsession. It became unhealthy. So I don't think that was my purpose, you know? So it's a fine line. It's very hard to find really where we're going. And perhaps I'm only 30 years old. Perhaps I'm not even aware of what that ultimate purpose was, you know? What if your ultimate purpose was helping one person when you were like, when you're like 48 years old? There's one person in this entire earth that you were supposed to affect, and that was your purpose. Like, what if you had a conversation with God after this whole life and he's like, oh no, you did it. Remember when you were 48 and you met that person and you like put them on this path? Well, that was it. You did it. And you're like, really? Oh, okay. I thought there was all these things and I was beating myself up for all these things that I thought I was missing. And it was like, no, you were just supposed to help people. You were supposed to like share those things and enable people to be great with you and share your art, you know? So I don't know. I'm kind of going on random tangents, but this is fun.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think in some ways being a creative can also, in my opinion, connect to being an empath as well. I'm not sure that necessarily every empath would be a creative, but I feel like there's a very creative aspect of emotions and creating from those emotions into a creative endeavor of whatever kind you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we got like kind of like torn off the empath path, but you know, I think this all fuels in. And if anything, like with the empath conversation, I love that we can enable people to think about it a little more and perhaps turn some people on to maybe that is why they struggle with X, Y, and Z, you know? And that's awesome as well. Cause you know, maybe it's a more common term now, but there's still so many people out there that just don't really know what's going on with them, you know, and these sensitivities. So I'm glad we can have a conversation like this. This is awesome.
Yeah, and each person brings a different experience and perspective on the world and how they experience it. And if that turns into us just kind of talking about what we want to create and how we experience creating in the world, I still think that that's connected. At least that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think we have like a minute left. So if you wanted,
Oh, I know we're at an hour
yeah,
already. Wow, that was quick.
I know. So if you have any like words you want to leave with everybody about your thoughts on an empath or any advice you would have for people that you haven't already said.
I know we've gone like totally random tangents in and out of different things. I would just, I'm such an avid reader right now, so I would just challenge everyone to at least find something that interests you if you're not a reader right now, and just give it 10, 15, 20 minutes in the morning. Just start there. Whatever your morning routine is, whether it's tea or coffee, just get your coffee, sit down with your book, find a place that you like to read. Maybe put on a Baroque music is amazing. Put on some Baroque music, light Baroque music, read your book for 15 minutes, and just try that every day and see how you feel. Because I really think that would help. I know it doesn't have much to do with empath, but I want to encourage people to get back into reading. I think it's super important during these times.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think having a morning routine is actually very helpful. I've been making my bed every day for about a month. Just 'cause
Awesome.
everybody says, like, even if you don't do anything with your day, at least you made your bed. Like you've
Yes.
done something. I don't have any of the stuffed animals on it now, but like I basically made my bed. So
That's awesome.
I would completely agree with you on that aspect of things. And then I don't have another person at this moment in time. I have a potential idea. I might have other people. This is kind of for everybody, for just an update. I might get some of the people I've already interviewed come back and ask other, maybe more specific questions or something like that. There is somebody I might ask today. So it just depends. If anybody out there knows of somebody who's an empath, identifies as an empath, and wants to be interviewed, or just talk to another empath for fun and go in tangents, we can do that too. So
Love that. Yeah, I'll
yeah.
let you know if like somebody messages me too. I'll keep my ear to the ground. Maybe I'll, ask a few people and see if anybody's interested. But, I think this is great what you're doing. And, I think it's very enjoyable. It's fun to go on tangents with you and speak about sensitive topics and, how we can grow.
Yeah. I mean, it was great to meet you through Nate.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you, Nathan. I don't know if you're here or popped in, but
I don't think he is at the moment.
That's okay.
But, yeah. Okay. So I will see people in the next interview whenever that happens, hopefully sometime soon.
Awesome.
And
well, thank you, Hilary. I appreciate you having me on.
yes, thank you, Aaron, for being on. I appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.